man. Just got my hair cut. My girl cut my hair for me. Man, I'm like bald, man. Looking like Kratos up in here. Just gotta get this beard grown out. Speaking of Kratos, April 20th, God of War's coming out. What a segue. Unbelievable. How do I do it? But that's not even what we're talking about today. Let's get going. What's going on, everyone? ActiveSyn here, and we're not talking about God of War, but we are talking about something that I find to be very interesting, and weirdly I don't see that many people talking about it. This is from Uncharted creator Amy Hennig, as she weighs in on story-based single-player games. The title of this article is "People Ask for Story-Based Games, but Don't Necessarily Buy Them." This comes after the cancellation of Amy Hennig's single-player Star Wars game that EA out of nowhere canceled in favor of more online multiplayer, microtransaction, loot box games. We all know the story. This led to Bethesda bringing out a commercial promoting single-player games, because as we know, Bethesda makes a lot of single-player games. But the problem with this, at least according to this article, is the publisher's lineup was discounted at the time of some titles like The Evil Within 2 and Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus, which were only a few weeks old and were already half price. It raised the point, are gamers willing to put their money where their mouth is? Uncharted creator Amy Hennig weighed in, and she is not overly convinced, guys. This is what she had to say. "There is a real problem. The rising cost of development and the desires, or the demands even, of players in terms of hours of gameplay, fidelity, production values, additional modes, all these things," she said as part of a Polygon discussion. "Those pressures end up very real internally. If it costs you, let's say, $100 million or more to make a game, how are you going to make that money back and make a profit?" She continued to say, $60 price points aren't changing. There's a lot of negative press around monetization, loot boxes, games as a service, but these things are trending now in the industry, especially for larger publishers, as an answer to the problem of rising development costs. Budgets keep going up. The bar keeps getting raised, and it starts making less sense to make these games. She concluded that while fans may be demanding single-player games, they're not the ones that are dominating the sales charts. There is also this trend now that as much as people protest and say, "Why are you canceling a linear story-based game? This is the kind of game we want." People aren't necessarily buying them. They're watching somebody else play them online. So she's effectively saying that because of places like YouTube and Twitch where you can watch live streamers play games, that this is ruining the sales of single player games because you can just watch someone do a playthrough. That is true to an extent. Like, if you're only semi-interested in a game and you don't want to drop down $60, you could just watch somebody on YouTube play a game. I think all of us have probably done that at some point. But good games do shine through, like Horizon Zero Dawn did exceptionally well. That was a new IP. Zelda Breath of the Wild, of course, did fantastic. There are lots of single-player games that do sell well. Evil Within 2, was that ever gonna sell well? Like, to be honest, it's not a big franchise. It was barely promoted. I didn't see much for it. Wolfenstein 2, I will admit, I'm kind of surprised it didn't do too well. I was kind of shocked to see the game selling for like half price within a couple weeks. That's unfortunate, especially since Bethesda, as far as I know, made a good game. I haven't gotten around to it yet. It's on the list, but I don't have enough time to play everything right away, but that is a game I'll be getting. She says that games are costing $100 million or more to make, and who are we to argue with that? She's the one who's making games. She's been part of Uncharted, so she knows how the increasing game development is. We just have to take her word for it. We've seen stuff like Destiny, $500 million. If that was a single player game, I don't think they would have made their money back. But, you know, there's stuff like Mario Odyssey, single player game. I don't think that cost $100 million to make. I don't think that for a second. So it's all about, you know, maintaining budgets. I get it. You need voice acting. You want to push the boundaries of graphics, and that adds up the cost. But at the end of the day, you gotta find a way to do it, because people want single player games. We're seeing with online only shooters and other online only multiplayer games that people are starting to get fed up. Look at Destiny 2. It's been a disaster. People are leaving that game left and right. Nobody wants to play it. They've ruined the game with all these kind of nonsense microtransaction loot box garbage, and it's happening in some single player games too, and people just are not having it. So I feel it's about managing your budgets. Now, as far as Amy Hennig's game, Star Wars, you can't tell me that a single player Star Wars game would have sold poorly. I think a lot of people would have been craving that, especially after the Battlefront 2 fiasco and how EA handled that. You would have thought EA would have wanted to bring a single player game out to balance that, but they just canceled it. So from her point of view, I can see why she would feel people don't want single player games, because she literally just had a single player game ripped out of her after working on it for several years, which sucks. Like, I think she worked on that game for 3 years, and then EA just pulled the plug. We actually talked about this earlier. God of War coming out April 20th. I think we did get to mention it. Yay. April 20th, that is going to be a single player only game. They also announced there will be no add-on DLC, like no day one DLC, no microtransactions, none of that. It's just going to be a complete $60 story-driven game. Apparently it's going to be like 25 hours. So Sony's 100% behind single player games, guys. They just killed it with Horizon. Now they're bringing God of War. We know Last of Us 2 is on the way. They had Uncharted Lost Legacy recently. Like, Sony makes a lot of single player driven games, which is why I like their PlayStation for their exclusives, because I like single player story campaigns. I enjoy those. So as long as they keep bringing out, that's great. But the $60 price point can't change. Why does it need to change? $60 is already a lot of money. It's $80 here in Canada, but we'll just use 60 for the sake of argument. I feel like if Sony can do it, and Nintendo can do it, and Bethesda can do it, why can't other companies? Like, we see smaller indie games, they sell you story-driven games sometimes for like $20. Yes, the graphics aren't as nice, and yes, there's less voice acting, but you know, you work within a budget, you make a quality product, and people are gonna buy it. So I don't know, guys. I don't fully believe this whole YouTube and Twitch kill single player games. Again, like, yes, it does impact them in some way, but at the same time, you have to look at the other side of the coin. If I watch somebody play a game online, a single player game, and I'm enjoying what they're doing, I could always just stop the stream and go buy the game and enjoy it for myself. There's nothing stopping somebody from doing that. So it's not just black and white, guys. There's a lot of gray in the middle. But that's it. That's what I wanted to talk about. I found this kind of interesting because she is an insider. She's worked on several Uncharted games, so she's made a lot of single player games. So she knows, of course, things that we wouldn't know, and she knows how the industry is trending, and it's nice to see her insight. And I just thought it would be interesting to talk about this. So let me know what you think about Amy Hennig, what she had to say about single player games in the comments section below, guys. Make sure to hit that like button, share the video, subscribe if you have not done so already. Have a great day, and I will talk to you next time. God of War's coming, I'm so happy. Did you see that? Did you guys see that trailer? Oh my god, it's so good. So good. Now I'm out of here. Bye.